The forest of Arcturus 7 was not supposed to be dangerous. According to the planetary survey reports, the indigenous wildlife posed minimal threat to sentient beings. But as xenobiologist Lyra Seth of the Valorian Confederacy stumbled through the undergrowth, her azure skin slicked with sweat and her breathing ragged, she realized how catastrophically wrong those reports had been. The creatures pursuing her were unlike anything in the database. They resembled the Earth creatures called boars that she'd studied in comparative biology. But these were massive, easily 300 kilograms each, with tusks that gleamed like polished obsidian, and eyes that burned with predatory intelligence. Their guttural squeals echoed through the crimson-leafed trees as they crashed through the brush behind her. Lyra's elegant legs, built for the lighter gravity of her homeworld, struggled against Arcturus 7's punishing 1.3 G environment. Her portable shield generator had failed after the first boar's charge, and her communication device lay shattered somewhere in the clearing where her research team had been scattered. She didn't know if any of them had survived. A root caught her foot and she tumbled forward, pain lancing through her ankle. The squealing grew closer. She dragged herself behind a fallen log, knowing it would provide only seconds of shelter. Her people, the Valorians, were scholars and artists, not warriors. They had evolved on a peaceful world with few predators. Evolution had not prepared her for this. This is how I die, she thought. Closing her eyes, the sharp crack of a projectile weapon shattered the air. One of the boars squealed, a sound of pain, not rage, and crashed to the ground. The others wheeled around, confused and furious. 2 more shots rang out in rapid succession, and 2 more beasts fell. The remaining boars, confronted with an unknown threat, did what predators rarely do. They fled. Lyra looked up to see a figure emerging from the tree line. A human male, wearing a battered leather jacket over a thermal suit, held what she recognized as a chemical propellant rifle, primitive by galactic standards, but devastatingly effective. He was tall by Valorian standards, with dark hair and eyes that scanned the area with practiced efficiency. "You hurt?" he asked, his voice rough but not unkind. He spoke in standard galactic, though with the distinctive accent of someone who'd learned it as a second language. My ankle," Lyra managed, her translator struggling to keep her voice steady. The human slung his rifle over his shoulder and approached, kneeling beside her with surprising gentleness for someone who'd just killed 3 massive beasts without hesitation. His hands, calloused and strong, carefully examined her injury. "Not broken, but you've got a bad sprain. Can you walk?" I don't think so." He glanced at the fallen boars, then at the darkening sky. "More will come. They hunt in larger packs at night." Without waiting for permission, he scooped her up in his arms as easily as if she weighed nothing. On her homeworld, such an action would have been impossible. Valorians were denser than they appeared. But humans had evolved in heavier gravity, had built their strength fighting their way up a harsh evolutionary ladder. "My ship's not far," he said, already moving through the forest with confident strides. "Name's Marcus Chen, independent trader. Saw your distress beacon before it cut out." "Lyra Seth," she managed, trying to process what was happening. "Research team scattered, planetary rescue's been notified. They're sweeping the area." His arms were steady beneath her, showing no sign of strain. "But they won't reach this sector until morning. Whatever happened to your team, you can't help them by becoming boar food." They emerged into a clearing where a small cruiser sat, its hull scarred but well-maintained. The design was clearly human, all function over form, built sturdy rather than elegant. The ramp lowered at Marcus's approach, and soon Lyra found herself in the ship's compact medical bay. Marcus worked with efficient competence, wrapping her ankle and administering a broad-spectrum painkiller after checking its compatibility with Valorian physiology. "You're lucky," he said. "Those boars? They're called razorbacks in the frontier colonies. Settlers brought earth boars for farming 40 years ago. They escaped, hybridized with local fauna. Now they're the apex predators in half the forests on this rock." The survey report said, "Survey reports are compiled by people who never leave the main settlements." There was no judgment in his voice, just statement of fact. The frontier's different. Things evolve fast out here. Adapt or die. Lyra watched him move around the medical bay, this human who'd appeared like a warrior from ancient legends. The galaxy's civilized species often looked down on humans, newcomers to the cosmic stage, barely 3 centuries since first contact. They were seen as crude, violent, products of a death world that had forged them in constant struggle. But sitting here, Alive because of one human's skill and decisive action, Lyra began to understand something her academic studies had never taught her. Humans weren't violent despite their evolution. They were capable because of it. Every hardship their world had thrown at them, they'd overcome. Every predator, every disaster, every challenge had refined them into something remarkable. Survivors who'd turned their planet's cruelty into strength, then taken that strength to the stars. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved my life." Marcus shrugged, but she caught the hint of a smile. "Out here we look out for each other. Alien, human, doesn't matter. The frontier doesn't discriminate in its dangers, so we don't discriminate in our help." He glanced at the view screen showing the dark forest beyond. "Besides, couldn't leave you out there. Where I come from, that's not what we do." As the cruiser's engines hummed to life and they lifted away from the deadly forest below, Lyra found herself thinking about the reports she'd write, the lectures she'd give when she returned home. The galaxy thought it understood humans, but they'd only seen the surface, the loud traders, the boisterous explorers, the aggressive diplomats. They hadn't seen this, the quiet courage, the instinctive protection of the vulnerable, the strength tempered with gentleness. Marcus Chen had saved her not for reward or recognition, but because when faced with someone in danger, humans ran toward the threat, not away from it. Perhaps, Lyra thought as stars streaked past the viewport, that was the real reason humans had carved out their place among the stars so quickly. Not because they were the smartest or the most advanced, but because they were the ones who showed up when it mattered, who fought when others fled, who extended a hand to those in need. The galaxy had called them primitive. Looking at the man who'd carried her from death's jaws without hesitation, she realized the galaxy had been wrong. And